Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Jedi Granville Productions. I am Jedi Granville, or as some of my cohorts have given me the name. There you go. And with me today, joining me on this bundle of fun, hopefully we'll have a great time, which I know we will, Mr. DJ Anubis from Metal Tavern Radio. Brother, how you doing today?
Doing good, man. Rocking and rolling. I see Jakey Poo in
chat.
I was
gonna say, Jakey Poo, how you do? You doing okay? I know if he was here, he'd be red faced already. So, and there's okay, but no, dude, it's great to see you. I'm glad that you're doing well. You know, hey, life intervenes, but doesn't mean that you can't still have a little fun even at this point in time in life. So,
yes.
Wait a minute, fair. Yes, but to kind of get this ball rolling, you know, we're here to talk about a very famous, infamous film that I'm pretty sure you've heard of, and many who are watching now may not have heard of, at least in our generation have heard, but others younger may not have heard about it, but it's infamous. It's infamous for many reasons. And the thing we're talking about, and it turns 40 this today, believe it or not, and that is Maximum Overdrive. Okay. If anyone knows about this film going into it, you know that this film is infamous for one simple thing. And how can I put it like this? Let me just say that this film is infamous for knowing that it's directed by Stephen King, his one and only directorial event. And be honest with you, I'm kind of glad it's his one and only, because, you know, love or hate this film, it's I don't know how to really put it. I mean, I know for myself, going to see this film when I saw it in its original run, it's not what I expected, because here's the thing. Before I I'll just go and explain it. When I saw the trailer for this film, it scares me so much that I actually couldn't sleep for a week, literally.
Wow. But the Green Goblin face.
No, this is the thing, because that's why I say this film is not notoriously scary, you know. But when you look at the film, when you look at the trailer, you discover why I got so scared. Stephen King, with his very eccentric way of just like, I'm going to scare the hell out of you. I mean, if you look at that guy's face in the trailer, he looks like some demonic kind of like madman. And I'm like, because I could never get my head around it, because I was say I was 16. And the funny thing is, this trailer came in front of Ferris Bueller's Day Off before it started. It was one of the coming attractions. And I'm saying, I'm about to watch Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And here comes this trailer. And I'm like, why am I getting so hell scared by it? Years later, I would discover it's like, A, the man who directed it was just like on a total high, literally. And B, because he's the one who's making the damn film, you know? So, and I had to get that out the way, because this film is not necessarily notoriously scary. It's actually pretty tame compared to other, you know, wild, you know, horror films or whatever you want to call it. Because I don't even call this a horror film. I'll call it more of a sci-fi comedy to some degree, you know. But to kind of get it rolling, when was your first intervention with this film in terms of when you first saw it and when you first heard about it?
That's a good question. I mean, it came out in '86, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean, I might have went and saw it in the theaters. I can't really remember. It's been so long, you know. But I mean, I've seen this movie a gazillion times. Like, it's one of these movies where I'm not gonna say it's a masterpiece per se, but it's still a movie where if it comes on and I'm not watching anything else, I can sit there and watch it because it is entertaining.
Right.
I do remember this the most. I was going to my summer job, and so like I was jamming the shit out of the fucking soundtrack from AC/DC. Like it was just the biggest. That whole record, obviously, a collection of different stuff. Who May Who being the original track for the movie, but all the hits they had in there, Back in Black, Hell's Bells, for those about to rock, stuff like that. So I just that whole soundtrack was amazing, and the way that they incorporated it into the movie itself works well. I can't remember if I saw it in the theater or not. I may have because of the soundtrack. Once I found out that it was actually the actual soundtrack to the movie, so probably did. But I liked it. I mean, I came out really liking it. I mean, at that time, Estevez was like a big name in in Hollywood, and thinking it just come off the heels of like Breakfast Club and stuff like that. So they were just that Brat Pack was really big back then, even though he's the only one really from that Brat Pack. But
yeah, but that's the thing you have to remind ourselves that he like I say Estevez in there, but yeah, that's the thing about this film is that it's a total score by AC/DC. I mean, I think that was something that was very very legendary. And talk about legends, there's another legend. What's up, Kevin?
The legend.
Yes, he's very big legend. But no, that's the thing. I think this might have been the first time a heavy metal band actually did the whole score for a film, which to me, I had no problems with that because I feel like they did a pretty good mix of what they were doing, given the vibe of what the film was. Like you say, the music that the songs that they gave, and then there's moments where I really love where AC/DC really does crank up something that sounds like this is very much horror and whatever. Like the moment where Homeboy, the gas pump goes off and he takes the damn handle, puts it up into his face. This is in fair warning to anyone out there watching, especially little kids. Do not take a gas pump trigger or whatever and look at it's just like pointing a gun in your face, the barrel of it. Do not do that. I'm like, dude, I'm 16 and I'm looking at this like, bruh, what are you doing? Don't do this. Don't put that in your face because I know something bad is about to happen. But anyway, when he does point in his face and the diesel comes flashing his eye, you hear that like guttural kind of sound that AC does a dun 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 dun. I was like, dude, it's like pounding. It's like, oh my God, it's like that's like, okay, I get what he's going on with this. It's like that's how AC/DC was doing this soundtrack. It's like they really did like the rock and heavy metal kind of vibe just to give you like this is the which I could say in terms is what it was giving us. This is what Stephen King quote unquote did a good positive thing here, using AC/DC to really give some kind of really effectiveness of what the vibe we're feeling with the film. Even though his writing, I'll be honest with you, his writing should be stuck to in terms of, now because he's wrote screenplays before for films, but I'm talking about in terms of writing dialogue when he's directing. It's like, stick to books, dude.
It is interesting because like I've never read the story behind this one. I mean, I've read a lot of Stephen King books in the past, Pet Sematary, It, stuff like that. So it is a little surprising. I mean, obviously the dialogue is very simple, very atypical for a movie like that in the 80s, but considering the guy and the source where it comes from, like it's a little surprising that he didn't get a little more creative or more deep into it. Like I haven't read the actual story of this particular movie, but when you look at the other movies that were made off his stuff, like Christine, or as I said, even It, the TV series, had like a better structure of dialogue and script writing. So again, you're right. Maybe it would have been better to put this in the hands of somebody else at the time to at least write and like direct. But I know that Steven was also one of those guys that like he hates The Shining. He hates it.
Yes, he's made that very clear.
But I think that movie's great. But it's all depending on his. He's the author of the book, and he just didn't like it. So I know around that time he was very like finicky and kind of irritated. So he wanted to do his own directing. But again, this movie has fun things in it, but I can see why people would have an issue with the writing and the dialogue.
True. Yeah, it's because like I say, me I can't work with the shit. I mean, I can, but I feel like the dialogue in here is very Stephen King-esque. I mean,
I could obviously time has passed, but I could easily go to Chat GTP and make a better script than he did.
I get that. I can see the humor. I can see the the kind of dialogue he's in, but it's like as you say, you mentioned before when he goes up to the ATM, and I had to show this. This is something I actually missed when I saw it in the theater. When the ATM outside, like I actually missed that in the theater. I didn't see it until I saw it in replay later on. But when we see Stephen King go up to the ATM, and as you say, it's like, "Honey, come over here, sugar." I mean, is it honey buns or sugar buns? He says it. It's like this machine just called me an asshole. And I'm just like, wow, that's crisp. That's clean. That's very good. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? It's like, I'm like literally thinking to myself, it's like, what kind of dialogue are you doing here? I mean, but that's partially, as I say, that's Stephen King's style there, and that's
well, I don't have any real issues with that part because I knew that his cameo was like meant to be kind of humorous. Like if you had ever seen what was it was part of the Creepshow series? He did the little green fungus, and he's like, meteor shit. So he's always got these like little one-liners and stuff that he puts in there to be comedic. But yeah.
So and it's kind of timeless, knowing that this film is one of those films. And the thing about it, when I went to go see the film, I actually, because like I say, I said before, the trailer scared the living shit out of me, and for the longest time, like I say, it was like a week for to go see the film. I say I'm gonna face my fears and go see the film. And this was at a time where I was still, because like I say, my mom, God bless her, she was saying, you're not gonna see a film that's R-rated by yourself until you are legal age to go see it. That was my mom, and I was like I say, I give her that.
I just kind of insert real quick. Like, I'm like you, as kids, we grow up and let's face it, a lot of the best stuff that was ever put out there was when it was R-rated. We knew this.
Oh, no, we knew, yeah.
I think I was about 17. Because I think at the time you had to be 18 for like R-rated. I can't remember.
No, you had to be 17. You could be 17.
Okay, so maybe I was 16. But all I remember was I really wanted to see that movie Terror in the Aisles, which was like a collection of different horror films. Mm-hmm. And so I went, and of course I was growing, and so I looked like I was probably 17, 18. So they didn't even bother to worry about carding me. So I was like excited, I get to go see an R-rated movie. Right. My dad found out I went to go see an R-rated. He was so pissed at me. I was like, it wasn't even that bad. Like it was, but it's just funny to me because like. I wanted to see R-rated movies so much.
That's me. I mean, because let's be honest. You and me grew up at a time. I know that some of the people who are on the chat or just watching may not understand that. I feel, and this is just me personally, I don't know how you feel about it. I feel R-rated films back then had a more robust, more just like kind of factor. It's like these R-rated films nowadays. I mean, you got a few that go for the throat, but the rest of them are kind of, I think that's kind of pussy whip in my mind.
I don't know. I mean, you can literally go to PG-13 films now, and it'd be almost like what the R-rated films were back then. They pushed the envelope so much now that in some ways you can argue we've been desensitized to like R-rated because it's not really that crazy anymore for us. We've seen all the craziness,
right. So, but it's a wild thing in knowing that this film is like so many others, just that wild ride. And again, it's a film that really shows how much, Stephen King was involved, but at the same time, it's like maybe he shouldn't have been involved to begin with. And to kind of break it down, the film is kind of based on a short novella that he did, was called Trucks, and kind of basically sets the tone of it, the machinery just going on its own. And it's kind of weird because another film that came out at the time, just 2 years prior, to deal with machines taking over, which was, Terminator,
Mm-hmm.
but that was dealing with man's intervention and how it's a whole Frankenstein motif turning on itself. And it's like it runs, rampant on the creator. Here we find out that the whole reason why everything, as far as, and this is something I'll never understand when watching this film, how come certain things are affected by this? The tail of a comet is like I say, the Earth is caught in the tail of this comet, and for, as it says, 7 or 8 days, it pretty much overrides all machinery that's been made by man. But here's the thing: I don't know if this is plot armor or if that's just lazy writing. And it's crazy that this is coming from Stephen King because he's not so lazy with it. But trucks, certain small items or whatever are affected. But why is it that certain cars are not affected by this? Why are cars usually the one thing that's not affected? Big ass trucks, bulldozers, this little machine, this little like go-kart with the machine gun on it, M60 on there. It's like that doesn't make sense to me.
That's one of the things that's probably the most confusing about the film, because there is a moment where one of the waitress, and she gets attacked by like this turkey cutter.
Yeah.
And the thing's not even plugged in or anything. So it's not driven by any kind of electricity. So you look earlier when the young boy is riding his bike through the neighborhood and that girl's hanging out the window because of her hair dryer, attacking her. So King wasn't very detail oriented when he decided what was going to be affected by this comet or the UFO that we find out later. So it's very inconsistent on what is controlled and what isn't.
And that's why I say the root. It's like, okay, give us the basis of what is being broadcast. It's like, okay, we skip this little title. It's like, okay, the Earth is caught in this wind of the comet and it's affecting all these things. It's like, okay, we get that. But what are the rules? And it's like it. And I guess you got to have some kind of situations where it's like the rules can't apply here and it has to be affected this kind of way. And it's like, okay, but it still seems kind of like it still seems kind of like, okay, that doesn't really make any sense. And like I say, for me, crazy as it sounds, I try to find a logistics in a lot of these things. It's great. I mean, fantasy, sci-fi, horror, as much as these are like, say, total made-up things, I try to find the logic in it. And then and the thing about it is you shouldn't do that because it's like it's going to make up its own rules no matter what. But I try to say, like, okay, this is affecting, these small things are being affected. Some things are like really big are being affected, but this in the middle is like not being affected by this. Just the math ain't mathing, as the saying goes. So it's I don't really get it. But I mean, again, the film for what it is what it is, and I feel that. Thankfully, that what we get is basically what we get. It's not so much of a, toss up of saying, "Oh, this is what we're gonna get." It was like, but when I did go see it in the theater, it's like, oh, okay, this is, yeah. Someone gets called an asshole. Someone, gets, this and this, and they get. I mean, there's some violence in there. There's some gratuitous moves, but not so much. As we like to say, I mean, it's not gore, isn't it? In fact, I couldn't say this is a gore fest. This is more of just like a happy moment kind of thing. Because truth be told, and this is, I don't know how you feel about this. This is a between horror and comedy, but I feel that someone like John Landis does a better job at it. when it comes to
Yes.
blending those
I
two elements.
mean, a lot of the horror that we see is actually earlier when actually the young boys in the baseball field and stuff like that. Um, you saw like a moment where a lawnmower had blood on it. So a lot of it was just after something has happened, other than like the steamroller. That was kind of funny, but
Yeah.
overall, like it's very subtle. It's not the forefront of this, and it's just more about like the way I look at it. It starts out kind of like in a horror way, but then it kind of comes almost like an action film later.
Yes. Because that's the thing right there. There's a many moments of good stunt work and good action that's displayed in here. It's crazy, But and that's why I say it when I'm expecting to be scared, but the only scared elements was like, oh, okay, it's doing this. It's like then I'm like, that's all right. That's why I get, It's like I'm facing my fears, but I'm not getting what I'm thinking is going to happen, So it's like, all right, so cool, so be it, But anyway, this film, as far as production, this was filmed in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is kind of where Stephen King, I think, is where he's from, or just based a lot of his stories as far as North Carolina. I'm not for sure. I never really looked it up, but they filmed it there. This is where this is one of the films that was under Dino De Laurentiis' studios. What was it called? The De Laurentiis Entertainment Group. This is one of the first films that I think this wasn't the first film that was under his studio. This is like the second. I think the first one was Transformers, the movie, which is kind of cool. But they filmed it with a $9 million budget, which I feel the money went pretty well in this film, for what it was. And pretty much it stars, you mentioned Emilio Estevez, but also stars Laura Harrington and future Lisa Simpson, Yearly Smith, which that voice you can never undeniably forget. It's that very, that signature is like that voice is just like it's there. It's inherently embedded in your brain. And playing Curtis, which he didn't really have much of a career, John Short, the one on the right here, he's pretty much the main cast. It stars Pat Hingle, I think it's Hingled, playing Bubba. I don't know why he keep calling people Bubba. His name is Bubba.
Hey, Bubba.
But it's kind of weird, because you think that I'm trying to get off the screen here. Get that off. I can't understand why that. You have a decent cast, but the cast is pretty much limited in terms of what they're doing. We find out about Emilio Estevez's character. Was a parolee, and of course Bubba is pretty much taking advantage of him, and it's just like, hey, call the wild, you're a criminal, but I'm going to do more criminal things to you. It's like that old trope of like, we can't give the ex-cons a break, basically. It's that kind of tone. And I'm thinking to myself when I watch this, it's set in the summertime, and when I say summertime, it's set in the summertime. It seems like it's set in the South, but where they're at, it's like it's tremendously hot. So I guess either way, like say where you're at, it gets hot, but does it get like tropical hot, in that sense?
So, probably. I don't remember where they were supposed to be. Where were they located? I can't remember.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on your point of view, Kevin. I don't know about that. And he says here, well, you know what? Now, truth be told, I have to say this too. As much as this film is wild and it's very eccentric, it is a little bit better than some of the films we see nowadays, because some of them have no originality. Now, I know that like a film like Obsession that recently came out, it has a little bit more of a original tone, although it's taking some elements of things of the past, but it's done in a very unique way. This was the same thing. Overdrive was done with something that was totally unique, and I feel like back in the '80s, it sounded like it had more origin. There was more originality back then, and I don't know why is that people nowadays can't take a cue from those days and kind of lean on that, with this being an
Well, I
example.
don't know. I have to try to think because obviously Stephen King was. There was so much that was taken from his work back in the '80s, which is kind of a miracle, or at least it's amazing that so many studios and directors wanted to translate his works into a movie and whatever. But we don't really have a lot of them. Like there are authors out there writing great books, and I'm sure there's still movies being made off of books, but either these books are just like when they go to put them on film, they're just kind of overthinking it, or they translate the books into ways that aren't even close to the source material. So we know that, like Harry Potter, I mean, they're not a direct copy off of the books. They've been changed up a little bit, but they're at least 80% close to what they initially were in the books. But some people will take something and they just change it to where it's only maybe like 20 or 25% of the book. And that kind of irritates moviegoers because they're not really seeing a lot of what they liked about that book to begin with. So, and even Jaws, like, think of Jaws, like there's a different ending for Hooper in that, but it's a slight change, and they cut out a lot of the, the affair stuff and stuff like this. So it's still like 85% Jaws, but they at least give you most of the meat. The other ones, when they try to do these translations of books, they don't give you what you really want out of it. So it's frustrating for the moviegoer to watch this.
That's kind of true. Yeah, and this is kind of thing I've realized, especially with the '80s, motif is, say, for instance, The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which is based on a Stephen King, novella. But I think it's like, because for what I've been told, the remake that was recently came out, it was more towards the story of the original material. Whereas the '87 version, it was kind of like we took about, as you say, like maybe 10 or 20%, and the rest is pretty much what you get.
And that might be the outlier, though, when you think about it, because again, I'm kind of maybe contradicting myself a little bit, but I haven't seen the remake, and I've heard it's really bad. But like you said, everyone said it was closer to the source material. But then you look at like what Schwarzenegger did. I hadn't read The Running Man. I knew that King had written it, but Schwarzenegger had done such a great job, and the movie was just so much fun that like I didn't even really care that it was close because I never read the book. And I think that's probably also the other thing with people too is I never read Harry Potter. So for me, like when I hear people say, I like the books better, like I mean, I understand the point, but like I've never read it. So whereas like if I read like It, for instance, It is an amazing book. And even though I enjoyed the TV series and not really the movies, I did enjoy the Derry movie or the series for Derry. But nothing is really compared yet to the book still. So I think that's sort of the bias that we have when we read books. We expect them to be kind of like exactly like how we saw them and imagined them in the books.
Yeah. And, and just kind of quick that add on to what you're saying, that the books, and I'm not a big reader, although I have read some of some of these books. When I do see a film that's based on an idea or a novel, I was kind of like, wow, I wonder what materials was put in or taken out of the source material, and how did it affect the rest of the film itself? Because you got to remember, the book will always be different than the film all the time. And I know like people like Peter Jackson, he did his best to take as much of the material from the original books and make them into what they are, what you see in the film. But, I never really realized how much was taken out of some things from the book, from book to screen in terms of telling the story. But I feel that's where you have to say, artistic licensing comes into play. And I think that's why some things like that do happen like that. And then it's up to the, and you just say it's up to the person to say, well, I feel the books are better because it's more detailed, whereas the film is like, okay, you only got a certain amount of time of describing whatever, and you go from there. So it's touch and go, as I like to say, when it comes to that. But that being said, we talked about the stars, and I want to talk about another one, which is this young man here named what was his name? Brad? Was it Brad? Yeah. No, was it Brad? No, not Brad. It's Brad. No, Deke. I'm sorry, Deke.
Yeah.
Played by Halster Graham. You know, and he's a very effective character. He's the one who was on the baseball field, and you see that moment where, you know, this is another moment where that donk donk, when you see that steamroller come in and just, it's like, okay, I mean, because the first off we see, you know, the coach get hit in the nuts with the soda machine, and then, you know, it's like, okay, no, this is serious now, but it's still kind of funny. It's weird that, you know, it switches over from horror to comedy in this moment, because we see that steamroller come in, and this is where it's like, oh, we ain't gonna give a fuck. We're gonna kill a kid in here. Kid gets run over by the damn steamroller. I'm like, oh shit. I was like, okay, this is like, all right then. It's like, we're not holding no punches here. It's like, and truth be told, that moment where we see the head, you know, gets crushed, believe it or not, it was edited out, the moment where the blood got, you know, split, but they cut that particular few seconds out because, like, that'd be too gratuitous. Like, not to say that wouldn't be gratuitous, because you just saw him get crushed. You know, it's like crazy, you know.
They weren't going to show that back then. They weren't.
Yeah, I mean, and if they did, he's like, man, that's too much. But no, Graham, you know, like I say, he does a real good job of going through the motions, dealing with all the things that are going on around him, you know, and I think it's kind of funny seeing a kid, although he, like I say, he was a teenager when he did this film, doing all these things and, you know, really acting around these going ons with machines going crazy and everything, you know. It's like, and it's just a real trip, you know, because looking back, you know, you don't usually see kids acting or, you know, using profanity or, you know, just being outright like this. But that's one thing about King I've always noticed with him when it comes to kids, especially if they're teenagers. Like, he's gonna let the leash off them and say, go do your thing and just act like what a kid would do, you know. And to me, I think this kid did a pretty good job. He does. He has good survival instincts, and he, like I say, he gets to the Dixie board where where a standoff of the place is, and he does a pretty good job of, you know, because I guess show this, he does a pretty good job getting there, although everything is, you know, doing the whirl with the trucks, you know.
Well, what I do like about, you know, how King wrote this particular character was, you know, like you said, he's a survivalist. So despite all the shit that's going on, he makes his way. Like, who knows how far he's got to go? He's going down a highway on a bike. But one thing I do really appreciate is that, you know, once he's found out that his dad is dead, he has that moment where he has to kind of come to grips with that. But then later, when the plow comes and that little machine gun thing, it starts beeping. And so this is where this kid comes in invaluable to them. Like, it's like he understands Morse code. And there's this like nice moment where he's listening and he kind of slides into the booth and he says, give me a pen. It's going too fast. And it's one of those things, like, if you, obviously you and I are older now, but if you're a kid and you're in a situation where you're with nothing but a bunch of adults, and even though this is kind of fictional and it's a lot of heavy stuff going on, there's this moment where he kind of feels like he is an adult now. He's had to grow up really fast and he feels important. And it's a nice moment for him because he knows something that none of the adults understand, and it's a big part of like how they can continue on to survive, because of course their goal, the machine's goal, is to have them fill up all their tanks, and keep them running. So I like that moment with the kid, because he has to really change from being just someone who's going to be dealing with the loss of his dad to actually growing up really fast, because he's on his own and he has to find a way to survive.
And I think that's a great thing, knowing that somebody, let me see if this comes up, and it's not coming up. Okay, never mind. Anyway, yeah, there it is. Yes, yeah, that's what I was trying to pull up. It's that this go-kart thing, and then this bulldozer, with the coming in, because it's like we're pretty much connecting to the audience, and it's good that you say that, but it's funny how kids have to do that. They have to kick in that the survival instinct to say, I want to survive, I want to, because we do see him, that moment where he breaks down, because he's asking Emilio Estevez's character, is like, is it true about my father? And it's like, and Bubba with his,
yeah, he's very cold hearted. He's like, yeah, he got scrapped out by what I was trying.
I'm like, wow, dude, could you not?
Dick.
Yeah, I'm like, could you not be more sympathetic for the kid? But he breaks down, but after a while, he realized, like, okay, it's time for me to man up. It's time for me to really show. Because later on, he's gorilla style. It's like I'm not holding back. I'm not, because he even says, when he gets close to the window, when, like I say, when the go-kart here comes to the window and starts beeping, he says, they tell him, like, come away from the window, Deke. It's like, hey, he's right there. If he wants to, he can just shoot us and do whatever he wants to, because it's like, that's the thing. He's like, he's not afraid. I mean, I can say he's afraid, but he's like, he's not letting these things intimidate him anymore. It's like, I'm not doing that. I mean, I've lost my father. I have no father now. So I was like, hey, if you want to blast me, blast me. Okay. And that's kind of hardcore for a kid to do that, So, but it's kind of weird. But the real star, and I should say the real star of this film, let's be honest, the real star of this film is this bad boy here.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is the Happy Toys truck. And I don't know how it's you, but I when you first saw this, did you know that was the Goblin? That was the from Marvel, as I'm saying. Did you know that was
I suspected it. I mean, it looks exactly like it. So, I mean, obviously I was never a big comic book fan, but I knew exactly who the Goblin looked like. Yeah. Green Goblin. So, but I just love like the glowing eyes and just the menace that it has. Like it is the creepiest of the vehicles that are used in this, even all the way to the end. So it's a cool thing. I just always said to myself though, like, how does that driver really see over that thing? Because I know it has like a lower part, but I'm like, dude, that is so huge. It's not like a small little emblem on the truck. It's right. Freaking huge.
And it's kind of funny you mentioned that, because when I saw a documentary about how the hell they put that particular head on the head, they had to actually get some kind of permission to put that, because it's like you said, that's blocking the driver's vision of driving. It's like the ears, because like I say, bring it up again. It's like, look at it. I mean, it's like the head part is bad enough, but then you got the ears. It's like It's like how is that possible? But again, I feel like
if you see like the ear of the lower part where the lights are, that would be illegal, because you have to be able to have your lights be able to shine all the way through. So the cops would have been like pulling this guy over, telling him, you can't have that on here.
See, this is where I say this is where you have like, again, artistic licensing, or the so-called suspension of disbelief to come into play, because you and I both, as I said before, logistics, logic. It's like, is this going to work in the real world, or that's just going to be a total BS sandwich? Because it's like, I don't, it's like, you gotta, that's why I say your imagination takes over, but it's like, at the same time, it's like, I don't know. And then when you brought that up, it's like, I hadn't thought about that. That's like, the lights have to be on. They have to be on in order to drive. It has to be able to see things. But like I say, getting back to the story of him, and we pretty much, like I say, the world is kind of fucked up. You know, we know that about the bulldozer, you know, the go kart and everything. We know that eventually these things, they really don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? They're machines. They're gonna do whatever they want to. You know,
Yeah.
and Deeks, I mean not Deeks character, but Emilio Estevez's character, you know, says like, we're going to try to get out of here because the kid was able to get inside the or like when I say get inside
Sewage.
the
Yeah.
sewage, and what I say, Bubba, his character pretty much. In fact, what's his name's character in there? I'm tripping now. You know, Billy. He pretty much says, you know, I think I got an idea, and I should mention this about this. Bubba, which is Pat Hingle's character, he's got like an arsenal in the basement of this place. Isn't that convenient that we got guns, ammunition, rocket launchers?
Not just like a little bit. Like it's like a freaking barricade down there. You could start World War II with that shit.
Yes, I'm like, good God, you know, I was like, you got all this shit in here. He's like, you know, when he asks about it, he's like, he tells a homeboy, say, "Shut up, Bubba," and I say, "I found it in my Christmas stocking." It's like, yeah, all right, whatever. So
Hingle did such a great job being a heel in this. He is like you can't not leave this movie without hating him so much.
And, you know, the funny thing is, he's not that kind of actor. He's actually pretty decent. You know, he's not somebody who's overwrought, but he does. Yeah, you say he does a great job being a total prick in this. You know, which I have to commend him for that. But like I say, there's an arsenal of these machine guns and whatever, you know, and they're used to blow up some of the trucks, you know, and everything. But anyway, we know that the trucks are eventually going to, like I say, do their thing. You know, say Bill says, we got to find a way to get the fuck out of here, which they do. They get out. And during the time when they're doing this, you know, and I think it's best at nighttime, but when they're just circling around, you know, they eventually just crash, destroy everything around the Dixie Boy, you know, and we get this amazing moment where when everything goes to shit, you know, they get out, they're out, you know, they're traveling in rain, and you know, we get this amazing explosion of the which I feel like one day if I ever do another fourth or third best explosion, that's going to be one of them, because it's like just this big explosion. Then you got these twin fireballs going upwards, you know, shooting up, and I was like, dude, I just like say to myself, it's like, dude, it's like y'all are blowing yourselves up, but yet y'all don't care. You know, y'all making wreckage of everything, but it's like y'all don't care. You know, and I guess because they feel like, well, we got only a few amount of time on this planet, so it's like we're gonna do our best to try to kill the humans, as we like to say. But going back to what Bill was doing, he knows about a boat that's on a marina that has no kind of motorized electrical power. It's only a sail kind of it's driven by wind. So he figured, like, let's get the marina and we'll get there. So we see that well, this is the thing about this film. It shows that people's greed still is inherent in human beings. This one guy sees this woman this is another thing. This is what I was mentioning before, the rules of this film. The woman is like got the window kind of crushed her, you know, neck, and she's hanging out, and she's got like, I'm thinking like, okay, that's a car. So you're telling me that certain cars still are affected by this, but some cars are not?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So take the married couple. They're driving. Their car is never overtaken, and even though we know it should be, it's not overtaken by any kind of power. And the other thing is the woman you just mentioned with her, you know, being caught in the window and her hand out. Why didn't the car kill her earlier when she was driving? Just run her off into a bridge or something like. So it doesn't make a lot of sense on how these kills happen. It's almost like we're supposed to, I mean, obviously you got to suspend belief a little bit, but it's like it is kind of inconsistent of when you're thinking about how each person is dying. So yeah, that's frustrating about this film, is that part of it.
but it's weird. But going back to like I say, the woman hanging out, we see that she has a ring, and there's one of the people who escaped from the Dixie Boy. He sees a ring on her face. I was like, bruh, you seriously you're gonna take the ring knowing that your survival is more at stake right now. And then we see that, you know, the bad boy, you know, it's like dude, it's so creepy with this moment. It's like it's in the dark. We see it's like he creeps. I mean, the truck just creeps upon him and he just runs him over, you know. And I'm just like, you know what? You deserve that. Your ass deserved that because you are too damn. No one can be that damn stupid. But then again, I realized that's a trope. That was one of those tropes we see back then, and inherently we still kind of see them now. It's like, how can a person be this damn stupid that you're going to let greed override your, you know, logic circuits of survival? You know, I don't get it. But
which is interesting because, you know, one of the things that gets brought up, and, you know, we're going to certainly talk about it, is that as we get towards the end of the film, we find out that a U.S. Soviet missile takes out a UFO that was hiding inside the trail of the comet. So, you know, right. And Estevez had kind of come to the conclusion earlier that, you know, if an alien race wanted to come down here, they wouldn't have to really put foot soldiers on the Earth. They would just find a way to use our own technology against us. And so, like, I just sit there and I go, well, that's a pretty good thought process, even though you have to really kind of suspend belief that they'd actually figure that out. But yeah, it's a very interesting approach to how we do rely on it, but it makes you think about even outside of that. Like King likes to do that, where he writes stories, but there's always like an underlying message of like real life issues. So that would be one that where like maybe we're just getting too consumed by technology and stuff like that. Which, you know, this was like 86. So now when we see everything that's going on with smartphones and TikTok and all this stuff. So the message was pretty clear back then too.
Right. And you know, and I think you bring a good point up. It's like, yeah, we're relying too much, and we didn't have that stuff back then, but it's like we were relying on it back then, but it's like now we're like more reliant on things. And it's like, if you think about it, we don't really have to be taken over by anything because we're already consumed by the technology we have today. That's what's so weird about it. It's like we become I feel like this. We become the slaves of our own inventions, as I like to say. I mean, as much as that shouldn't be, I don't try to be preachy here, but it's like it's almost that kind of thing. And what's up there? What's up there, Big Mac? How you feeling, Matt? Yes,
Matt. What's going on, brother? Goji.
Yes, I hope you're doing I hope you're doing well, brother. Hope you're doing fine for yourself. Yeah, but no, that's a good point. You know, I mean, because not many people would look at it that way, but I think individuals like you and me can see that because we knew what technology was back then compared to now, because it's hell way more advanced. But as someone kind of told me a long time ago, you know, I feel technology will weaken us or handicap us more the more we get advanced with it. You know, and I mean I never really thought of it that way, but as time progressed, I began to see what he was saying, you know. And let's see here. Oh, okay, nice. Wish I can join you. I mean, I definitely like SpaghettiOs surprise for sure. You know,
got some skitty for me.
Yeah, exactly, skitty. but no, my point of it is that yes, yeah, like I say, Stephen King, you know, he's biased and whatever, you know, and everything. And I should bring something up real quick too. Notice that religion is always something he plays on a lot in terms of this film. This is something I didn't bring up. There's a Bible salesman in here. And yes, he's a Bible salesman, but he's not, quote unquote, living by the word. Because you see in the beginning when he's, you know, helping Laura Harrington's character you know, get from one place to another, and he's got his hand all over her, you know, it's just like, and then when his car gets kind of wrecked, you know, he's spouting out all kinds of, you know, MFs or, you know, it sounds a bit, yeah, like, it's like, wow, you're a God-fearing man, yet you're doing all this, you know, saying all these things. Like,
Yeah,
that
they made
shows,
him pretty sleazy.
but it shows some, but I think what King was doing here was basically showing how, and you know this, anyone who knows me, I'm basically, because I'm from the Bible Belt, I'm basically a God-fearing individual. But unlike this guy, I'm not hypocritical with what I've been taught or we know of. It's because it's not the religion, it's how you take what is religion, and like I say, don't use it in the sense like, oh, I can be this, and then I can all of a sudden I can snap a finger and it's like I can change. No, dude, you can't just do that. I think King was saying how hypocritical religion is to some degree if you look at it that way. I mean, it's up to the individual, because if you notice, he always has some kind of religion motif in especially in the films that we've seen, like Carrie, a little bit in Christine, a little bit in I think even The Shining, I think even in fact the television show. I mean, he's got something there.
Yeah.
But it's not inherently like in your face. It's just like you have to kind of pinpoint what he's trying to say when it comes to that, you know. But I just wanted to point that out because it's there. But I mean, I've always noticed that when he does, when I say not so much him doing it, but when people make scripts of his movie, of his books and everything, there's always an underlying religious outline that's there. And that's always something I feel that he's always done and always will continue to do. Although I don't think he does much writing anymore because the man is hella rich and then he's kind of like very old anyway too. So I don't know. But anyway, getting back to the story, you know, at the very end, you know, where the truck runs that guy over, Stokes Ray, we see Emilio Estevez with that damn rocket launcher. He says, you know, and I had to say, this is probably the only time we hear motherfucker in here. And he launches that thing, had that thing. He's like, adios, motherfucker. he hits the thing, it stops. But then when he cut back to it, it's just like boom. I'm like, you mean them toys with that flammable? You know, it's like, because I was like, the truck is carrying a load of toys, but I'm like, what fucking what kind of what you call is in the truck? I mean, what kind of freight is in the back that's got that much, you know, explosive power for it to blow up like it does? Because it blows up big ass flame up. You know, I was like, damn, you know. But like I say, the film ends with, you know, them sailing away, and it's kind of happy, you know. But we hear in the end, you know, where Yearly Smith's character say, you know, Curtis, I'm gonna lose my cookies. You know, it's like you hear that voice, like it's like, oh my god, you know. But and it's in at the very end, you see that title where it says the survivors of the Dixie Boy are still surviving.
Right.
So it's crazy how this film is, you know, it's one of those films that is a mixture of sci-fi, horror, but a bit of comedy, mostly comedy. And I just want to show a few things from the beginning here. The drawbridge sequence. Now, not a lot of people, I didn't know this myself, but and since this was produced by Dino De Laurentiis, you know, he's worked with this particular miniature supervisor who's he's a Spanish model maker, and he does foreground miniatures, which I did not realize there was anything miniature in this film. Because everything was pretty much in camera, real stuff. But the drawbridge sequence, which is hella crazy, you know, that sequence where, you know, that the dump truck spins its wheels and it falls into the water and everything. What you may not realize is that part of it was done in miniature. It was a foreground miniature. They got the real bridge in the back, but they got a miniature version of it right there set up for for
Makes sense.
for miniature shots. And like I say here, like I say, you see somebody working on it. I, for the longest time, did not know that that was some of that was miniature. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my God, that's crazy, And to me, this is one of those things where it goes back to something about how things were done in camera, were done practically back then, looked so much better than the CG crap we got, the CG soup we got nowadays. And it's sad knowing that most people don't use the old techniques today because they feel like, oh, we can get by with it. We do it really realistically. And everyone's like, yeah, okay, you can, but don't rule out the old ways, because the old ways are the reason why some of this stuff works now. Why are you doing it now? But I didn't realize that was something that was miniature. It's like, it's crazy knowing that what you see in your face, or put like this, what the eyes and ears think, the mind will believe. And for the longest time, I never knew that that beginning with the drawbridge, that was something that was miniature, and it was right in camera.
Yeah.
And if you look at if you look at the scene, you do see a hint of showing ACDC's logo on one of the cars, and you see that that guy that was on the motorcycle. I'm pretty sure his ass got graded, because you see how when he falls in the water, it seemed like his butt got scraped up so bad it was bleeding. I feel like I was like, oh my God, that's like, damn, that's kind of graphic, It's like, that's kind of harsh. And like I say, a lot of the things that were done back then were practical. And this, as I said again, this film was done on a $9 million budget. But I feel that the budget was done very well in doing what they did here, even though the film is what it is, But again, you use what you use, and the guy who directed it, which is King, he gave us what we wanted. And when I say gave us what we wanted, he gave us what he was doing, because the man was coked out of his mind. That's pretty much. I get that elephant out of the room. He was kind of coked out of his mind. And I don't know if you knew about that or not, about his eccentric nature.
Yeah, I remember him having those issues back then.
Yeah, because he even said he doesn't even remember. And this is the crazy thing. He says he doesn't even remember most of the stuff that he did on this film. That's what's so weird. It's like, you don't remember doing this? You don't remember this? Like, you directed it, but you said he doesn't even remember it. So it's like, that shows how kind of high he really was on that stuff, But anyway, again, that's Maximum Overdrive. It's that's why I say it was kind of short and sweet, because let's be honest, there's not much you could. There's much, but it's like really much you could really talk about, because it is what it is. The finished product is what you see is what you get. And I'll kind of ask you your overall thoughts in terms of both, what this film in general meant to you and your overall rating for it. That's that.
Yeah. So, this film is fun to come back to every once in a while. Again, when I think of films where it's enjoyable enough to, like, if you're just not watching anything, or you want to kind of like not pay attention super hard, you can sit there and watch and still get enjoyment out of it. It's fast. It's even today watching it again, it's like I can't believe just how quickly it moves. So it doesn't waste a lot of time. It's not any of the best King work that's out there in terms of filmmaking, but still enjoyable enough. I think a few years later, either the Sci-Fi Channel or TBS or somebody did Trucks, which was, I think, still based off the King stuff, but it was just done different with a different cast. I don't remember much from it, but I do remember when it came out saying, oh yeah, this is like Maximum Overdrive. Okay. But overall, I'd probably give this film like 8.5, as far as like entertainment value is concerned.
Nice. Okay. Well, I guess I can say the same thing. This film is it's one of those rarities, it's lightning in the bottle. And I said to say it again, thankfully, King never directed again because I don't think he needs to. I think it's like I say, leave it to the professionals, sir, because I feel that whatever you was trying to achieve, you achieved it, but not of the best of circumstances. And I went into this film with the notion that, okay, the way he says, like, I'm gonna scare the hell out of you. Yeah, you scared the hell out of me, all right. You scared me knowing that you don't need to be directing, you know. That's how I look at it. But overall, I feel like I'm kind of like you. I'll give it I'm gonna give it an 8 because it's like, yeah, it's not boring. It's not boring in one sense. It's very, it's entertaining. It does what it's supposed to do. You know, it doesn't leave you with it just leaves you with a lot of like questions in terms of what were you doing.
It feels like it's just overall like maybe like you're right. Like maybe King was just too fucked up to really understand or really have it put together the way it should have been. It just seems like it was rushed a little bit. And for a $9 million project at that time, it doesn't feel like it. It feels like much cheaper than that. And it's kind of crazy that it still only made like $7 million. So there's a lot of inconsistencies with it, and who knows what the real reasons are. But I would still suggest people check it out if they haven't seen it, because it is got some fun moments. It's got some great ideas, but overall, it just isn't going to be one that you're going to be like, oh, this is better than some other Stephen King movie. It's just not going to be that way.
And that's a good point, because it's I was still because I mean, I just recently watched The Odyssey, and I feel it's a pretty decent film. It's not Nolan's best, but I would still suggest someone go and check it out, because you know, you might find something decent about it, you know, story wise, because it is a strong story. It's now this one here is not so much a great story, but it's just a fun popcorn filled film, and I feel like you'll kill about 90 minutes, and you know, I think you'll enjoy it for what it is. You know,
right?
I think it's necessary. But anyway, brother, that's pretty much it. We've talked about it, and I told you it wasn't going to be that long, because it's
that's good.
It's and I feel like I don't think you need to waste too much time on something like this. I mean, because even though it's 40 years later, it's considered a classic. But and as Stephen King once said, you know, because he even says it in the poster here. I took it off. Never mind. He even says it's a masterpiece of terror. Yes, it's a masterpiece of terrible crap that you gave us, but it's decent crap that you can get into. So
yeah,
that's okay. But with that being said, what you got coming up on your channel as far as material or content or anything like that?
Right now, I want to be able to get my tarantula video done, talking about the do's and don'ts of breeding them. And then going into next week, Thursday, Anthony and I will be doing Ghouls of Midnight. We're going to review the movie Phantoms from, I think, 97.
Yes. Okay.
Friday, Neko and I would get together, talk a little bit about the best rock and metal albums of the month, so a month of July. And then Saturday, I'm still hoping that it goes through. I'm trying to make sure I got all my panel together, but I want to do my top 10 Leonardo DiCaprio films.
Yes, that's right.
Video. So that's what I pretty much got on the horizon right now as far as me.
Okay, cool.
Oh,
well,
I want to say real quickly, because obviously I announced this some days ago. This gentleman over here is my co-host now for Vintage Cult Cinema. And the next one we're going to be doing is the Boondock Saints. So once I get off with him, I'm going to talk to him about when we can set that up. But outside of that, that's pretty much it right now.
That's right. I'm dude. Trust me, I do not mind it, because, like I say, I got some great ideas, and probably be some stuff that's so old and some things that no one's ever heard of. It's like, dude, I'll be throwing that at you. So
it's all good.
Definitely do that. But as far as me, I got for tomorrow, I'm going to be discussing disaster films of the 70s, which is basically the robustness of the 70s. I mean, it had so much things going on, but the thing I'm going to be focusing on is the disaster films of that time, because that was the pinnacle of those kind of films, that kind of genre filmmaking. I mean, we do get some a little bit in the 90s, a little bit in the 2000s, and like recently, but to me, the 70s was the time of disaster films, and that's what I'll be talking about tomorrow. And as far as any material content coming up, next month I won't really be doing too much. In fact, since because I mean I mentioned this before on a recent video, since I work for the school board, school's going to be starting up soon, and when it's the beginning of the first of the year, it's very hectic. It's very busy. It's very like all things like you got to be moving like 24/7. It's like it's like so anything that I have content wise, it probably won't come out until the following month. It might be the tail end of August, but August is pretty much going to be a void on my channel. It's not going to be too much going on. And I should say, as far as what's coming up at the tail end, it'll probably be, I can't really say, but I will say in the future, in September especially, this is definitely going to be happening. I'm going to be talking about the 75th anniversary of the day the Earth stood still, which I feel like anyone who wants to join, which I know some will, it's a classic sci-fi film that I feel just got everything else as far as sci-fi got started, and I'll be talking, but that's not until like the tail end of September, the end of September. So, but as far as August, you won't really see anything on my channel between then and there. So, just give you a heads up, anyone's watching. But that be said, brother, I thank you again, Anubis, for joining me on this ride of just thinking about our youth, you know, because like I say, we were teens, but here we are, the last dinosaurs of our kind, and we're still here, brother. So I'm just glad
talk about some of our fun and favorite films and just films in general. So it's fun to do this, man. I appreciate having me on and doing this. I mean, like you said, it's been 40 years. It's hard to imagine already, but
it don't even seem like that either, to be honest with you.
Right.
You know. But anyway, thank you, Anubis, again for this, and thank you everyone who's for the comments and watched and everything. Thank you for watching. You know, because like I say, you know, I don't do this for views and you know whatever. I do this because I love this. I love doing this stuff. I'm just glad I'm able to do it. But as I always close out on my videos, y'all take care. Y'all please be patient and always not with the kaiju, but with the film legacy alive. So, peace out now.